This fall on the Teacher Broadcasting System, from Dr. K. Brocato of Mississippi State University, and based on the book by Carol Weinstein, comes a new drama comedy about diversity, friendship, and universal intervention, starring Sarah Wright and Katie Luke, about two teachers with different interests and content areas who have to share a classroom. This is a sneak peek for Sharing is Caring.
Hey, I'm Sarah,
And I'm Katie,
and I teach calculus.
and I teach U.S. history.
And last semester, our classrooms both got pretty badly flooded. So
Now we share this room.
Yeah,
Yay.
not exciting. So I guess the hardest part about working with Katie and a social studies teacher is that for a math class, the physical setting is so much different. I mean, we don't do discussions. I just need the kids to sit in a row and to do math problems and to write down their notes. And she's just not working with me on that.
So the other day, one of my teacher friends gave me this book on classroom management and said that it might help Sarah and I to get through some of these problems that we've been having. I'm not entirely sure, but I guess it could work.
So these are the 5 parts of what Carol Weinstein really talks about in her middle and secondary classroom management book. And we are going to let you know what these 5 parts are, and then we're going to focus on just one.
So the one that we're focusing on, as well as the first on this list, is physical setting, and that just talks about how the classroom is set up.
And the next one is rules and procedures, and that kind of explains itself. That's just how the classroom is managed between rules, which you can get punished for, and procedures, which are just classroom things that you don't get punished for, but that you need to do well.
Next is motivation, and that's how you motivate a student to learn intrinsically and extrinsically and that kind of stuff.
And the 4th one is curriculum design, which we'll be focusing on in Project 3, so we're not going to hit on that one too much today.
And lastly is family and community, and that's just, the teacher reaching out to the family and community to help the student learn better.
The second tier in Maslow's hierarchy of needs is safety. We want our children to feel safe in our classroom so that they can reach higher in the hierarchy to finally reach self-actualization. Now we're going to take this interval,
Man, this is so
this is what we
easy.
put in the interval, so we're going to go back to the first
Isn't this so
derivative.
easy?
So we're going to get 36 x cubed
James.
plus 6x.
James!
Victor, please try to be quiet. You're distracting all the other students in the classroom. I'm sorry that you got done with your work early, but you really need to pay attention so that you can learn and so the other students can learn too. Einstein's book, I'm going to read a passage about students with ADHD just like Victor, and I can probably implement this in my classroom to help him. She says that you can help students with ADHD by seating them away from noisy, high-traffic areas near well-focused students and as close to you as possible so that it's easy to make eye contact. Although many teachers seat distractible students in the center front, Coulter suggests that the second seat from the front in the end rows may be more effective than limiting distractible stimuli. Just like I modeled to help Victor, my students also have to implement this first standard in the Math Common Core state standards.
All right, class, good morning. Today we're starting a new unit on women in the civil rights movement, and I'm really excited about this. But first we need to talk about civil rights. What are civil rights? Steven?
I think civil rights are like when people have like their rights, but they're not necessarily given. They're just kind of things that we think we deserve.
Okay, things that we think we deserve. Does anybody have anything to kind of say about that? Pikachu? Pikachu! Pika Pika! Pika Pika! Pikachu! Pikachu! Okay, Pikachu, we see that you're very excited about this and very passionate, and I really appreciate that. But we can't understand what you're saying when you speak like this. And it's not a bad thing. However, we would really like to know what your thoughts are. So if you could please translate your thoughts into a standard English format. Thank you. So one thing that has become sort of a problem in my class is because I'm so discussion oriented is that some of my students don't always speak standard English. They don't speak standard English at home. Like Pikachu and Baby Groot. Baby Groot, all he says is, "I am Groot," and Pikachu, all he says is, "Pikachu." So I don't necessarily understand everything that they're saying. I can understand a small amount, but the students really need to be able to understand what their fellow students are saying. And so something that Lisa Del Pitt talks about in her book, Other People's Children, is this kind of linguistic diversity and how we should not make one culture better than another culture or present it that way. And even though we should implement standard English into our classrooms, we should not do it in such a way that degrades the student and the culture that they come from. And that's something that I really try to do in my classroom because I am so discussion oriented. All right, class, last night you were supposed to read this article, Bigger Than a Hamburger, by Ella Baker, who is one of the women in civil rights that we are studying today. You were supposed to also pick one passage that you found really intriguing or had a question about and put a post-it note on that passage so that we can talk about it.
Symbolic identification.
One thing Carol Weinstein talks about in her book is how teachers have to really dig into the interests of the students and the teacher, really.
Us too?
Yeah, us too.
Hold on.
We have to be passionate about content area, so it's really good for us to hang out materials that are professional and really just tell about how we want to run our classroom and everything about our culture and how we feel about our content area, things like that. Everything needs to have a purpose, though. You don't want your classroom to look like your bedroom. So
What? Crap! Dang it!
Do you just carry those posters around with you everywhere you go?
Don't judge me!
Task instrumentality and pleasure.
The two last things that Carol Weinstein talks about in the physical setting is task instrumentality and pleasure. Task instrumentality is just making sure that all of the materials that you have in your room can be used and can be used often, and that they're easily accessed by the students when they need to be.
And just like the materials needing to be used often, you want your classroom to also create a feeling of pleasure, which is the last thing Carol Weinstein talks about in her book. When a student enters your classroom, you want them to feel safe and secure, but you also want them to feel like they can have fun and be themselves and learn a lot while they're in your classroom. Like economics, positive externality is a benefit that is enjoyed by a third party as a result of an economic transaction. So like when one yard looks really nice in a neighborhood and other yards don't look as nice, they still get an internal reward. So I want to feel the same way in my classroom. If your classroom looks good and is well organized and has materials in their proper place, then the students are going to have that internal reward, and you won't have to reward them with things that don't matter.
Why sharing is caring.
So even though we read this book by Carol Weinstein, there are still some things that have been becoming problems for us because sometimes physical setting isn't always so physical. Sometimes there are some emotions and some differences in opinion and interest that can also get in our way.
So with unity and diversity, sometimes it's not just about the students, it's about the teachers' emotions as well. And as Nell Noddings told us, caring about our students is very important, but caring about coworkers is also very important. And so Katie and I both have to share a classroom. We both have to make sure that our physical setting is right for a discussion-based social studies and a note-taking based math class. So I guess even though physical setting is physical, it's also about caring about each other and caring about the students in both classes and knowing that both of us can work together with this.
Mm-hmm. So the problem that I have been running into with Sarah most recently has been desks and changing of the desk every day. I do not enjoy having to move all of my student desks from rows to a discussion like horseshoe every single day because I am a very strong woman, but I am also not very physically fit.
And I guess, no offense, having to erase notes off the board every single day gets kind of annoying because I get here really early to start my lesson plans. All right, time to get my lesson plan started. Are you kidding me? And when notes are all over the chalkboard, I have to erase them, and I have allergies. Let's just be honest. Chalk kind of kicks them up. So I guess what we could do to help each other, to care about each other,
I can erase my notes.
and I could make my classroom more of a social connectedness so we could push the desks together
Make rows, but together rows.
and have them more in contact for discussion, but also where they can take notes and not have to talk all the time.
Good. And what we're modeling here right now is caring about each other so that our students understand that when we care about each other and respect each other, then they can respect each other and respect us as well.
So I guess diversity does overlay students and teachers.